when we were planning this, but it does have a nexus between both Washington and Austin, and it is so important to the people in both of our districts. And that is, of course, the Texas GLO's announcement on Friday that the city of Houston and Harris County would not be receiving federal Hurricane Harvey mitigation funds from the $1 billion that the GLO announced in mitigation project funds last week. This decision to leave out areas most affected by Hurricane Harvey in Houston and Harris County, certainly on the west side of Harris County where our districts are, is really an affront to our community, to all that we've done to work together to recover and rebuild. It raises a lot of questions about the GLO's process. So I've spoken with Mayor Turner, I've spoken with Judge Hidalgo, many other community leaders, and our congressional delegation. And members of our congressional delegation worked together. We sent a letter on Friday to the Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, on Friday with our concerns about this because these funds were sent to, or are being sent to the state of Texas through HUD. So we've been working together on this issue. We are unified, and we are going to work to fight for our fair share of these funds. I've been working on flood recovery issues since I first came to Congress. In fact, I worked with my colleagues on both sides of the aisle to expedite the delivery of these specific funds when I first got there. So I just want to assure you all that I'm going to work with my colleagues in Congress, with leaders here in our region on both sides of the aisle to fight for our community, to ensure that we get our fair share of these funds. And that really is top of mind in this moment. But of course, we've been doing so many things throughout this year. And so I do want to do a little bit of a recap of these first 100 days for a few minutes, and then move on to Representative Rosenthal and then the questions. But we've accomplished a lot in a short period of time. And of course, we began this Congress really focused on delivering the resources that our communities need to combat the coronavirus pandemic. And Congress got to work right away on the American Rescue Plan, which we passed in March. I was really proud to work on several components of the plan, using the input from people in our district to help shape that legislation. And we're seeing the direct results. Through the American Rescue Plan, more Americans now have access to the COVID-19 vaccine than ever before. And I know I'm back home in Houston and I'm seeing it, and I hope that you are too, that people are benefiting from the widespread availability of the vaccine here in our community. Families, businesses, and communities have gotten direct monetary relief through the American Rescue Plan. And of course, healthcare is more accessible and affordable to families across our district and across the country. One of the most pressing issues in our community, even before the start of the pandemic, was the high price of healthcare. So I want to make sure that you all know that the American Rescue Plan provides new financial assistance to help reduce healthcare premiums, and that you can enroll for health coverage through healthcare.gov until August 15th because of the provisions in the American Rescue Plan. Also, I'm glad to report to everyone that the eligible families with children will start seeing American Rescue Plan's expanded child tax credit hitting their bank accounts starting on July 15th. So those are two really vitally important programs that I want to make sure that you know about. Of course, the American Rescue Plan provides funding for small businesses, for schools, rental assistance. There's money for state and local governments, which is so important, and that's been directly allocated here to the city of Houston, to Harris County, and to smaller municipalities within this area. And it really takes a comprehensive approach to addressing a lot of the challenges that we saw over the last year. So everybody in the district should have received a mailer from me about many of the programs in the American Rescue Plan. Hopefully you got that in your mailbox, but also there's more detailed information on my website as well, if you want to look there. And touching very briefly on a few other things, this has been central, addressing the pandemic, but there are several other things that we have been very focused on in Washington as well. And so we passed several really important pieces of legislation. As I always like to tell you all when we're together for a town hall meeting, that we have taken about 60 votes in this Congress already, and more than 50 of them have had bipartisan support. So that's about an 85% record so far. And about 60% of those votes have had an overwhelming bipartisan majority. 60 or so percent of the votes that we've taken so far. So I think it's really important to know that we're continuing to work and to vote on all kinds of matters. And that's 60 big bills. Of course, the work we're doing is also happening in our committees where we're working to still draft and shape that legislation over the rest of this year and next year. So those are really, really important things to know. We have passed several things that are priorities that people in our district have called about. Helping protect our communities from gun violence. We passed the Background Checks Act and the Enhanced Background Checks Act. Those have passed the House and are in the Senate. We've also passed, again, the Equality Act. And we passed the Paycheck Fairness Act to ensure equal pay for equal work. So those are some of the big things that we've done. But again, within that 60, there are a whole lot of bills that we have passed through the House. Including, I think importantly for our district, just last week, we signed a resolution. We passed it in the House that had passed in the Senate, and the president signed into law a resolution aimed at combating anti-Asian American discrimination. That was really nice to see the president sign into law after this difficult year that we've seen across the country. And then looking ahead a little bit, and I'm happy to talk about this more in questions since it's not really a look back, but you've probably heard that Congress is hard at work on crafting an infrastructure package. And in Houston, we know the importance of rebuilding and building more resilient infrastructure. I've certainly heard from people across our district about the importance of updating our transportation and our public transit systems and making sure that we're doing it in a way that's forward-looking with both the technology and resilience in mind. The president has laid out an infrastructure framework that the Congress is taking up, but all of our committees in Congress have various pieces of this bill, and I serve now on the Energy and Commerce Committee, and so we're working on several important parts of that bill. And I am really excited about one area that I've been very focused on for this infrastructure package, which is really working to emphasize building infrastructure to mitigate flooding and protecting our coasts. And really focusing on coastal resiliency for communities and regions like ours. So we've already done a bipartisan letter from members of our Texas delegation encouraging our Transportation and Infrastructure Committee to take this up as part of the bill. And I very much look forward to working on those things as we craft this infrastructure package this summer. And it'll help make sure that projects that are so important to our region will have the federal support when the time is right. And so that's a little bit of looking ahead, although a lot of what we're going to do tonight is probably look back and answer your questions about what we have done and what we expect to see in the coming months. And I know I have a lot of questions for Representative Rosenthal, so I'm excited to hear his update on what has happened in Austin, what we can expect to see getting signed into law, and anything else that we all need to know about what's happened in the first 100 or so days in the Texas legislature. So Representative Rosenthal, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Congresswoman Fletcher. I'm always happy that we get to serve together, that we get to coordinate our levels of government to try to work for the people. And I could not be happier, could not be more pleased to be represented by such a solid human. So thanks for inviting me to participate with you. And I'll start where the Congresswoman and I overlap. So the first part is this business about the General Land Office not directing any of the federal Harvey relief funds into Houston or Harris County. So I don't know who all is aware of this, but I have been nominated to chair the Harris County delegation in the Texas House. And so I've been pulling together the delegation, and we're going to be sending the GLO commissioner a letter probably tomorrow. I think we're on the verge of having every single member. I'll just say we've got the vast majority of everyone signed on already. And so I'm very happy also to see that our county commissioners, so not just our county judge and our mayor, but all four county commissioners, the 2 R's and the 2 D's, have been very vocal about this issue, because floodwater doesn't care about your political subdivision or what letter comes after your name. You know, we were having this conversation the other day. We need to do what's right for the people of our districts, for the people of our county and our city. So hopefully we can make some headway there. I'm also particularly grateful about the availability of vaccine and how effectively that's been rolled out, starting at the national level. And then in Houston, Harris County, of course, they have just done a fabulous job of making vaccine available. You know, I had not been able to see my father in person and give him a hug in a year, and now I can take him out to lunch. We went out to lunch weekend before last, so so I'm extremely grateful about that, and looking forward to getting our lives back. You know, some semblance of normalcy. So I know we were talking about making a look back on the first 100 days. We're actually, I think we're on day 132 of a 140-day session. So we literally have 2 days left to hear new business. And so clock's going to run out tomorrow at midnight. I'm here in my office in the Capitol, where I plan to basically live for the next 48 hours. We've had some long days and long nights. It's been a very challenging session. The leadership in the state has decided to go full bore, and they are bragging that they have had the most conservative legislative session in decades, and that's true. And I'm sure a lot of folks have followed different parts of this in the news. The voter suppression bills that have come through the House, Senate Bill 6, House Bill 7 were combined, and it looks to be one of the most egregious pieces of legislation in the country along these lines. They've passed a heartbeat bill, a fetal heartbeat bill, which basically a 6-week abortion ban, along with a piece of trigger legislation, so that if Roe v. Wade is overturned, it would basically outlaw abortion in the state like automatically. Just today, a vote was finalized in the Texas House to finally pass the permitless carry. So basically returning Texas to be part of the Wild West, and you don't need anything, no training or registration or licensing required. You can wear your handgun openly on your hip with a holster, and also reduces penalties obviously for carrying inappropriately or in places where you shouldn't, or violating the signage and stuff like that. A couple of things that haven't gotten that much attention. The GOP just passed an anthem bill today. So a clear, bold, and blatant violation of the First Amendment of the United States of America, requiring folks to play the national anthem at sporting events, or they'll lose all their state funding for their venues and stuff. So that's just silliness. But the one that really concerns me that people haven't really been highlighting is this: there's a teacher ban. So a bill that limits what can be taught in social studies classes in our schools, and basically restricts the teaching about racism and race theory. And it's, when you start gagging teachers, it's like burning books. It's an attack on our free and fair society, on our democratic process, and that's what we are combating every day. So it's been a fight to try to minimize the damage. It's really truly been a difficult session, but there are bright spots. I like to think that my specialty is working across the aisle, and I've really worked hard on developing that skill. I passed my first 2 bills through the Texas House. Both have gone to the governor's desk. I got unanimous votes in the Texas House and the Texas Senate on my first 2 pieces of legislation this session. So I'm actually really thrilled about that. Governor has already signed the first one, and the second one is on his desk. And one of these is Riley's rule. It changes the law in Texas so that a student's absences, if they're associated with a chronic illness or life-threatening illness, cannot be used to prevent them from advancing in school. And this, of course, everyone I've talked to all say, you mean that's not already a law? Apparently it wasn't. So, and it was brought by a young man in the district, a high school student. So really excited for him and his parents. That's called Riley's Rule. And then the other thing I'm very excited, I expanded an adult career education program to allow veterans groups to participate, wildly successful program. And then in the House, it hasn't been all bad. We, in our budget and in our funding legislation, maintained all the funding that we got last time for House Bill 3. So while and that's public education funding. So last session, we had a huge increase in public education funding in Texas. And this session, of course, because of the pandemic and the reduced revenues, we were looking at tightening our belts for the budget. We found a way to keep the public education funding in place, also cleaning up that House Bill 3 from last time. So certain things have been good. But with a couple of days left, I'm ready to finish this fight this session. And with that, I think we can go ahead and take questions.